let's talk fuel filtration and fuel polishing. Perhaps a term you've not heard before. I'm Matty B. This is D's Geeks. So we have all seen that a fuel filter might be rated to a micron rating, for example. But one of the most important numbers that virtually no one talks about is the fuel filter efficiency, which we're given as a percentage. Now, basically, what that percentage means is the amount of fuel that can bypass the filter. So it's really, really important to understand that this bypass percentage is actually very, very consequential, but only immediately after you're filled up. Now, you might always wonder, everybody who gets bad fuel in their diesel, it's never 500 kilometers after they filled up, the engine shits itself. It's like 20, 30, 50 kilometers straight away. Now, the reason is this little sucker here. Now, this sits at the back of the fuel pump. And so the fuel flow inside the fuel pump is basically into the fuel pump through this positive displacement gear pump, which would then actually positively feed the rest of the fuel pump. This sucker here, but dictates how much fuel flow, and it's a one-to-one correlation to the engine RPM. So you might have no load at all but 2000 RPM going down a hill, or you might have absolute full noise at 2000 RPM going up the hill, and the amount of flow rate that goes through the fuel filter is no different because of this system here. Basically, all that is different is suction control valve situation, how much fuel went to the engine and how much fuel went back to tank. What actually happens in the way that these systems are designed, they are designed to have a very high, what they call circulation rate. So a couple of reasons for it. Firstly, they want to actually try to temperature control the fuel. So that's why a lot of the fuel systems will actually have a return, and they'll have a cooler on the return side. They're circulating quite a bit of volume of fuel. They're putting it through the cooler and they're putting it back to tank. The other half of the reason why they're doing it is a phenomenon called fuel polishing. So it's really, really important to understand that percentage in terms of fuel filter efficiency and then obviously your circulation rate. But ultimately, let's say, for example, you've got 100 grams of shit suspended in your 70 liters, which is a 70-liter tank. Argument's sake, 2000 RPM, we'll just keep things simple. The engine will actually use or circulate 70 liters an hour at that 2000 RPM range, if you're a 1KD, for example, anyway. In that process, you're actually going to filter that whole fuel tank in that first hour. So all of that 100 grams worth of shit that's been suspended is actually going to get introduced to the fuel system. Now, obviously, the fuel filter is going to pick up 98% of that, but we're still going to allow something like 2 grams of shit to go through the engine. The second hour, we've now got a 98% filtration of the 2 grams of shit remaining, which is like 0.04 grams. And so you can start to see where this fuel polishing is really, really critical. It's one of the reasons why we like secondary fuel filter systems. I like secondary 2 micron, not primary, but that's a conversation for a different day. But when you have those 2 fuel filter systems in series, it's going to do a lot of this fuel polishing first time around. And for those that get stuck with bad fuel, you're not going to see that immediate failure. Anyway, hope that's interesting. I hope that's something that you haven't heard before. And we're going to do a little bit more testing. I want to have an open conversation about this 2 micron versus 30 micron. I'm not sold on either way. I just know the clearances inside the fuel systems. And I know that filtering more shit out of the fuel before it goes into these super tight tolerances would be better. I have seen some stuff about cavitation erosion. Not necessarily calling bullshit, but I'm wondering how effective it really is. There's certainly issues with the fuel systems, but another story for another day. Have a great day, guys.